Hello and welcome to my retro watches. This video we've got this little watch in front of us, a Titus Matic. It's a Pentastar Inca block, so I would guess this thing is possibly from the 60s. The watch is completely stopped. It won't run at all. I've wound a bit of the spring, it doesn't do anything. Shook it, it doesn't do anything either. So something is wrong in the movement, and I'm looking forward to this one because the movement looks especially nice. Now, before we get into all of that, I am recording this on all of my new camera equipment, so if you're regular to the channel you may have seen me testing this already, but of course if you're new, if some of the imagery is blurry in the final cut of this, it's still because I'm just trying to get used to the settings, so bear with me. I'm learning on the job, so to speak. So what we're going to do is take this watch apart, of course, and see if we can find the problem. Of course, clean the parts, rebuild it, and hopefully breathe some fresh life back into this watch and get it going again. Actually has quite a cool little case back. The thing is, at some point in time it's been really tight and somebody to get in has slipped quite a few times with their case back opener and it's scratched all over. May see at the end of the video whether I can buff any of that out. For now I have loosened it, and no, I didn't cause those scratches. So I'm just going to use a bit of pegwood and we're going to release this to show you what lies beneath. Excuse the fingers, of course. And there we go. We have a lovely gold coloured ETA movement, and I don't know which movement it is yet because I haven't looked down here to see. I can just tell, I always tell an ETA, certainly by these double winders. I would say double winders, this is all part of the automatic winding mechanism. It's a telltale sign. But that movement is really, really sweet. I love a gold or a bronze coloured movement. And sometimes you do wonder why you have a case back. Why don't you just put a clear case back on these and show that off? That is superb. So I'm looking forward to diving in, taking that apart, and let's see what we can find. So the first thing I've got to do is, before I want to get out the case, is I want to get rid of the rotor. It just makes things a little bit easier. And this rotor isn't easily removed by looks of things. So I'm going to have to take the whole plate off from these two screws that you can see there. And then we just need to look for a pry point. And that actually came off with a bit of whip, actually. So there's a bit of tension somewhere. Here we have the inside of the watch. And instantaneously and unfortunately, it's a hairspring. So it is my nemesis. Let's see if I can try and get that into focus for you. There you go. So hairspring, I can see it's sticking out here, and that balance does not look healthy at all. Now my hairspring work is not great. It takes a long time for me to try and get a hairspring to work. So I'm already demoralised. We're only a few minutes in, but I'm going to stay positive. We're going to get that off. Forget taking the movement apart for the moment. I'm going to take that off. I'm going to put it on the microscope. Perhaps remove the hairspring as well from the balance cock. And there we have one very tangled hairspring. Oh dear. Okay, well, never mind. Like I say, I'm going to remove that now and have a closer look. So despite that little setback with the hairspring, we'll carry on and disassemble the movement. So I've got to obviously remove the case clamps, and then we can get the movement ring out, and then finally the stem. And that's quite stubborn. Wouldn't actually come out the case very well. So there we go. I can just flip this over. So here we are with the dial off, and it's really interesting. I don't think I've seen calendar works like this before, so I've got to try and get a good memory of that. So we'll start dismantling anyway. First of all, of course, the hour wheel, and then we've got some covers to remove, and certainly this one here I think is going to have a spring behind it. Now, it might be coming through on camera, but there's a funny sort of ticking noise that keeps coming from my new lens. I have absolutely no idea why it's doing it. It's like it's an autofocus thing, and the thing is in complete manual mode. It's driving me completely bonkers. I've just spent the last half an hour trying to see if I could fix it, and I can't. So any of you camera boffins out there might know. It seems certainly when my fingers go near the camera, maybe you can hear it there. Don't know what that is. Frustrating. So anyway, let's move on. So I'm just trying to get a bit of roddy coat to remove that. And then there we go. We can see what's underneath there, which is a nice little stubby spring and the usual sort of click lever. So trusty old pegwood. Let's see what I can do with that. And that's what I can do with it. I can just let it bounce out without touching the thing. There we go. So I just find the parts on my bench, put them in my tray. So always an adventure with retro watches. Into the unknown we go. So just looking at this setup, trying to see if that's all one part again. Don't like hacking it with my screwdrivers too much, so where I can use some roddy coat, I certainly will. Saves damaging the parts, or marking the parts at least. And again, so I've still got this calendar works to work out. So I think I'm going to take this plate off next. And I've just noticed something. Just try and get that a bit more on the screen for you. I've got a screw here. We haven't got a screw there, but we should have. And this whole plate is loose as a result. So that could be interesting. I've got lots of spare screws, but whether I've got one that's going to fit in there remains to be seen at this stage. And that has just removed with the winding pinion. It's not the winding pinion, but it's a pinion, all part of the procedure to set the hands. I forgot the name of the part. And now we've got the minute wheel. So it looks like it's a Roddico fantastic movement to get rid of all these parts. And still really none the wiser of how to get to this, other than trying to now lift the date wheel. So clearly this can't tell if that is one part. It's like that bit on the top should come off, but it's, you know, under, almost looks like it's under tension. So we'll try again, see what we can do. But no, the teeth of the day wheel interlock underneath this, so I've got to somehow figure out how that comes off. I somehow need to remove the tension I feel. This is interesting to say the least. I'm sure some of you are already screaming, going, this is what you've got to do, but right now I can't see it. Let me have a closer look. Aha, so we have to, by the looks of it, slide this along enough to get it over that bit there, I think. Which in itself is particularly difficult. This can't be the way, I'm sure. I just don't seem to get the grip. No, I am not convinced. Oh, the joys of this hobby. Well, I'll take another closer look. Well, the date wheel is off. That was entertaining. Sadly done off camera, but there's a little hole here, if you like, a little slot. And I didn't think you would lever it up, but it kind of levers up a little bit, just enough to jump over that. So I didn't like it, didn't feel natural, but it seems that that's the only way it would come off. And then this thing, it's all spring loaded. So I can see when I push, there's a spring here. So I'm hoping really this just lifts off, but I don't know for certain. And what a surprise, no. So it's all still connected to how far you pull that back, I'm guessing. Honestly, it's supposed to be a nice movement, but I'm struggling like Billy-O right now. I just don't want to damage anything, and I can't for the life of me figure it out. I'm just wondering even if I could release the tension on that spring, but I can't see what that would do. It doesn't help for it to come off, does it? But there we are. I don't know how much of this I'm getting on film. It seems that it's nearly at the point that so we got parts flying again, and a giant spring, which I'm assuming went all the way around, and we're sitting in here somewhere like that. So on assembly, this is going to be eventful, but alas, it is out, and that is the main thing. So I've got a little plate there, of course, which is for a jewel. I'll remove that in a moment, but first of all, we'll now take a look at the keyless. And that's the dial side complete. So here we go on the movement side, and this should be a lot more straightforward because they all follow generally the same path. Obviously always make sure that you've taken the power out of the mainspring. That screw is particularly tight. I'm just wondering really whether I can actually take the bridge off with the screw in place. I'll just try again. There. It's released it. Of course, these are a left-handed thread, and sometimes you have to turn them the opposite way first just to kind of break the seal. And then this will be the click with a really delicate spring. Now I'm tempted to leave that in place. I know it's cheating a little bit, but they're always a little bugger to fit sometimes. So we can take the bridges off. So we've got 3 screws, 2 screws on that one. Interesting little piece there. I'll try and remember that that went there. Okay, bridge is off and we can get at the wheels finally. Just carefully remove these. And then we can move the barrel and the auto wind wheel as well. And then we've just got the last 2 parts. And the pallet fork and the escape wheel. And voila, there we are. The movement is now disassembled. So I will put this through the cleaner and go and hit eBay and the internet and my Facebook group and see if anybody has got a donor hairspring or a balance. Well, no cleaning montage on this video, and in actual fact this is now 6 weeks later or thereabouts. I've had a few health issues that have kept me away from the bench, and I've now come back to build this Titus, and if I'm completely honest, I can't even remember where all the parts go, so this is going to be really entertaining. I'll probably have to end up editing the first or the disassembly, should we say, so that I can figure out where the things are going to go. But I've got a rough idea, so let's crack straight on. And before I do, actually, and I'll show you this in a little bit more detail perhaps at the end of the video, bought an interesting movement holder. It's actually from AliExpress, but it works on split collets. You can't really see that, but I can turn it. So we've got this. Like I say, I can't get it in this camera shot, but I will try and zoom out later on. And the idea of this really is that I can move it around and still work on the watch and not take it out of shot, because for years it's always been a real pain in edit to move the movement back into shot all the time for you guys to enjoy the videos. So hopefully this will work, because I've not tried it yet. So without further ado, let's start the assembly. So the first wheel I'm going to drop in is that one there. That is part of the transmission from the barrel on to the train, I think. I am honestly really rusty. It's quite surprising just how rusty I am. And then I want to fit the barrel. Now I've already wound the mainspring back into the barrel. You've seen me do that a few times on videos. I've kept it out of this one for now. So I'm just putting a bit of D5. And then we'll drop that into place there. And make sure that's all binding quite nicely. Now this thing does move, but I can turn a little grub screw and lock it in position, which I may have to keep doing as I go along. So I'm going to now try to put the train in. So of course we've got the escape, and I'm just trying to think how this is going to work. What I'll do actually is pre-oil with some 9010. There's no jewel here, but the center wheel I like to always just put a little bit on the top there. Don't know if that's even coming out on the camera. And as I say, you guys will be fresh where all these parts go. I am not. So I'm just trying to see really which one went in first out of these two. Okay, so I feel it's this one, which it should be normally. Looks like it's got a very difficult pivot to find. But there it is. And then we'll just try to drop that in. Okay, I think they're okay in that position. So let's offer up the bridge. And that's just fell into position, but I'm not sure if everything is in place. Doesn't feel like it to me. No, it keeps moving the escape. It's quite an awkward little bridge to start back into the hobby again with, because I just can't. I can't see what's interacting with what here. It's just the escape is not in its position. I was hoping this movement holder's going to help me, but at the moment it's causing me a lot of trouble. The escape really doesn't want to find its home. I'll need to just double check that on the microscope, so bear with me. Okay, so finally the screws are in place, and so are the pivots. As you can see there, the escape wheel is finally turning. So that was epic, and that should have only taken a few minutes, and I think I've been recording for 10. So there we go. So now I've got to fit the barrel bridge, and first thing is to put the setting lever screw back in. And there's an interesting thing about this bridge, which I will just set the camera up to show you. So here's the bridge, and if I flip it over, you might remember this little part on disassembly, and I wasn't too sure. I thought it might be a bit fiddly to get it back in place. I'm going off shot with it. There we go. So that bit there has to rest on a little lump post thing there, and then this hole protrudes through the other side, and it's all then screwed together. So I'm going to have to put some decent grease on there, really, just to try and hold it in place. So I'm going to put a bit of Mobius DX for now. Sorry, Molykote DX, what I'm on about. And do it like that. Then I can get the part. Just try and make sure we're... Oops, I'm touching it with my finger. That doesn't help. There we are. Make sure I'm on screen. There we go. Hopefully that grease will keep it in position. So now I'll offer that bridge up. And then I've got to push it down over that setting lever screw, like so. And this is the thing that we've just sort of greased in position. So that at a moment's notice is going to fall out, that's for certain. So I'll get the screws in first before we can carry on. Screws are in place. Put some more D5 for the barrel arbor. And then I'll try and fit the ratchet wheel. and I'll just hold the ratchet a little bit in place just to get a little more turn onto the screw so you know it's on. And we can see that there's definitely some power there. Now I will oil this, and I will oil it, all the jewels on the microscope shortly, but I just want to press on a little bit more because obviously the key thing at the moment is going to be, what have I done about that balance? Well, first of all, I'm going to get the pallets in, and then I'll discuss what's happened there. So pallet fork is oiled and just needs to find its jewel. And then the balance cock. And that's quite a nice balance cock actually, because it's got 2 location pins, so you can't get it too far wrong, hopefully. So we'll put the screw in. Okay, and then I can put a bit of wind, and this time it should hold. And of course it's not going to hold because I haven't actually installed the crown wheel, and that's the tentative part, because we've got to be very careful that we don't push that down. Now I'm going to put a bit of D5 on the outside edge there. Now I'll offer this up because it's got a recess on one side, so it fits over that. And then I've got to get the click out the way. And I think that's in position, and then I've got to try to get the screw in, which is also a left-handed thread. And it has taken the screw, which is good because that was the, or has it? I now don't know. No, there's something not quite right, and it could be that little lever. Let's hope I haven't just ruined it. So I'm going to have to take the movement out and have a look. Okay, it seems to be in position. It is that little bit there. So I'm a bit of a loss at the moment. Then what's gone wrong? So I'll flip it back, try and work it out and be professional. Okay, so after a little bit of liberation and trying to use my memory, because this sort of engages with the ratchet wheel here and then disengages, I can only assume that I need to put the keyless works in, because obviously this is the manual wind part. So I'll put the keyless works in and hope, because otherwise I've got something catastrophically wrong at this point, and that won't be good for this watch, will it? Okay, so I fitted the keyless off camera just to speed the video up a little bit. I've done lots of keyless, they all follow pretty much the same thing. It wasn't a struggle, and so there we go. So I've just quickly dropped it into the old movement holder, really for focusing point purposes, because I'm going to flip it over. And now will be the moment of truth. And yes, as you can see, it winds perfectly, and that's exactly what we wanted to see. So I have fitted everything correctly. It just meant I needed to put the keyless in. Probably needed to put it in first in reality. But now we've got power to the movement, we can discuss the balance. So obviously we had the tangled hairspring, and what happened is I hit my Facebook group. Those of you who aren't a member, I suggest you join Retro and Vintage Watches and Restorations. And one of my admin team, actually, Mr. Simon Cope, ex-professional watchmaker, came up with, not going to see it very well, a donor movement. There it is. So I was really pleased that Simon was able to find this. I only needed the balance, to be fair, but he sent me the whole thing anyway. So we're going to fit that now and see if this watch will run for the first time in God knows how long. So with some power into the mainspring, let's offer up the balance. And it's a bit of an awkward bridge. It's got to fit in a particular spot. But there we go. Now obviously well, let me get it going first. I'll see if it's going to go. I'm pretty confident it will. I've examined this hairspring. And I think we're overbanked at the moment, so there you go. Look, it's going. Kind of knew it would, but that bit never ever gets old. Just going to drop in the screw, temporarily at least. Yeah, so we have the beating heart back going again. Now, the obvious thing is that the balance bridge is not gold in colour, and I'm not so worried about that for now. I wanted to make sure the watch was going to run, and clearly it's running, and it's looking pretty decent actually. I can change this bridge for the old one, but it should be fairly straightforward. It might be very difficult for me to film, but I'm going to leave it for now. I'll come back to it later, because what I need to do now is oil the main pivot jewels on this face and on the bottom as well. I also need to do the balance jewels also to see how good this thing is going to perform. So I'm going to oil everything with Mobius 9010. Now again, because I'm rusty, I haven't oiled anything on this microscope for a while, but should be okay. And now the dial side. Not quite happy with that. Coming in at a funny angle. And again, made a bit of a hash of that. Does look a bit jumpy, doesn't it, actually, that, but I think we're okay. So the one we've just done there, I've just realised there's a cover that I've got to put on that, and that's possibly why it's jumping just that little bit. So now it's time for the part of doom, but I have worked something out prior to this bit of film. First of all, I'll just put that little plate on there to cover the pivot, and then we have this part. So this has caused me some grief getting it off. It's also causing me grief getting it on, but I've worked out the technique. This is before I've even tried to put the spring on, so I have to, just trying to demonstrate, put it on its pivot, and you have to sort of move it down like this, and then you can slide it in and it goes over that little post that's got a flange on the top. So in principle, taking the part on and off is relatively straightforward, but then we've also got to put a spring in there, and that's the bit that worries me, because under tension it's either going to be really easy and I'm worried about nothing, or it's going to be really difficult. I'm feeling it might be a high friction part, so I'm putting just a little bit of D5 on the post too, and then here goes nothing, I guess. So the spring, I feel, because obviously it fell out rather than anything else, sits somewhere around there. But yes, here lies the problem, or does it? No, I still can't quite get it over. The spring has got to be this side. Thinking you can see that. Yes, it's got to be this side of this. So that really is quite a challenge. And there's no way, there's no easy way to get the spring to that position. So yes, that, why do they make them so damn difficult? I can't figure out how I can put load onto the spring to hold it there and get the part on at the same time. Now, just so I can load it at that point, but then everything is out of whack. Something is not quite right there, and I'm going to have to start again. Well, now the part is in, but the spring is wrong. Should be sitting up like that. It's not doing what it's supposed to do. I'm going to have to revert to my video to get a better idea of that position. So I've now got the spring into that position. But it's still, I think it needs to come round a bit more. Ah, it's in. It's absolutely in. I've suddenly realised all this time what I was doing wrong. The spring needs to be on the end there, look. And now that part is working fine. What a relief. That took ages to do. Hopefully it won't jump out now. That's the next concern, of course, but at least I can now crack on and try and get a few more parts on and hope that all goes well. Put a bit of D5 here. So here's the cover plate. And I was missing a screw, but fortunately, because I've got the donor, I've got now 2 screws, so I'm very lucky in that regard. I haven't had to find one because they're really small, these particular screws. Right, moving swiftly on now we've got those difficult parts on. Hopefully it's going to be a little bit easier. So I'm just going to put a bit of oil on this post here, and then this has got a little wheel and a lever, which is all part of the calendar works for changing the date at 12. I'm just at a really funny angle so I can't see what I'm doing. There we go. So it just fits in like so. And we have got to put the hour wheel on, but I'll save that till last because the next part is going to be the date wheel itself. And this is where I think it might get a little fun, because it was a devil to get off, and I'm not sure whether it's just going to drop into place. I have a sneaking suspicion it's going to be completely awful, and I can already tell straight away that I need to remove this in order for it to seat underneath, and then I'm still not quite sure how it fits over there. It still might just drop in actually, so I'm going to have to remove that little plate there typically and I'll do that now. So plate's removed. I'm just going to drop that into place. And again, I can just see that it doesn't like to drop. Just as I said it, it's dropped in. I was going to say it doesn't like to sit in there, but there's a little cutout on this bit here. So I'm learning now as I'm assembling it how I should have took it apart. So that's good. I'm pleased. I will now put that cover back on, and then we've just got the finger to go on there then, and that should be the dial side complete. So now the tricky part, or rather the spring may be tricky because this jumped out, if you remember, very quickly, and the spring, again, not sure if you're going to see this and it's going to be focused, is extremely thick, almost looks like it's too big for the movement, maybe too powerful, which is a concern. It's possibly the original one though, so we'll have to try and see if we can get that fitted. And just as I thought, it's sprung out. Well, this is the watch that just keeps giving, and I tell you what, it's giving me loads. Unfortunately, it took me quite a while to get that spring back into its position. At one stage it fired out and ended up on my floor. Took a good 20 minutes or more to actually find the damn thing. Finally got it in position. I was recording the whole time. My memory card had got full. I hadn't got a clue. I'm still getting used to this camera, and subsequently no footage, and that's genuine truth. So if I haven't bored you to tears already, there's still a little bit more to do on this watch. I'm going to be just pleased when it's all over, honestly. A little bit of D5. That's those in position, and then you have to sort of hold the whole thing down a little bit and try and move that lever back. It's easier said than done on camera. Okay, I've oiled these two posts with more D5, and then we just need to drop these wheels in, and I have to just turn this just a little bit to allow the other one to go in. And as you can see, they are rotating. I've now just got to turn that screw, which moves around and holds them into place like that. And that's the auto works done, other than fitting the rotor. Here's the rotor. Try and get it in shot. And I just drop that on top like so, and I've got a screw that goes in the middle there. Okay then, who has spotted the obvious? I bet all of you have been screaming at the screens for quite a while now, and I didn't realise I've basically put a part in completely wrong, and it's driven me bonkers for, well, most of the day actually today. We're on a separate day. I actually put the dial on and it would not, the date would not change when I wound on. It did a few times, but then it wouldn't work at all, and I've had it all apart. I couldn't figure it out for the life of me. I then hit my Facebook group and Mark Lovett's Facebook group, pleading for anybody to help. And a few people spotted the obvious straight away because they've worked on this movement, and they said this part here is on in the wrong position. And you know, at the time when I fitted it, in my head I was thinking it doesn't go like that, but it must do because it's got this little notch on it and that's going around on that notch there. But I was completely and utterly wrong, and this watch has become my nemesis now. I just want to get it done and finished. I've had enough of it because it's driven me crazy. But they're all my own mistakes. I should have took photographs. Well, I don't take photographs when I'm filming, but realistically I should have looked back and edited my footage of the assembly, the disassembly, before I assembled this watch. So my mistake. I've now got to change that over, and of course I've got that spring of doom in there as well. So this is just going to be an absolute and utter nightmare. Okay, removed it all. I'm now going to show you how it was supposed to fit, but not that any of you don't know because you've been paying attention. And it's supposed to fit in like that. So I'm going to fit the spring and everything else again. It is an absolute pain in the backside, so I don't really want to do on that camera. I'm well aware that this video is going to be epically long, and if anyone's got this far already, I'll be quite surprised. Okay, I'm going to try to demonstrate to you now how this works. It's difficult because I've got to try and hold it in the place it's focused in. It really is quite remarkable. It pulls that all the way back. There you go. So it's now working seamlessly. Kind of overcomplicated compared to what I've seen in other movements, I have to say, but now finally I can get the dial on and the hands on, and we can start rounding this one up. Now the moment of truth. The movement is back in the case, hands are on, dial on, all of that. I skipped it on the video for obvious reasons. Now still got to put the auto works on because you can't regulate with it on, and starting in crown up position because we do get some variant swings on this watch when I move it from position to position, and you have to leave it for quite a while. So you can see here in crown up, which I think is always a stressful position for a movement, it is actually running pretty sweet. I mean, I don't know how old this watch is, but to be within 5 seconds a day at that position is pretty decent. Again, we can go to crown down and you might see what I mean. You get a real crash and burn. It's a massive swing. As you can see, it's now going to go really slow. But if I give it enough time, and by time I mean literally minutes, it does start to swing back up, albeit not as brilliant as you would hope. But I really don't care anymore when it comes to this particular movement now. Let's just try dial up. So you can see it is kind of all over the place, but I'm going to assure you that, you know, if I leave it long enough, it does come back round to something reasonable. So there we go. That is the watch complete. I will clean it up now a little bit, put it on a strap, show you some nice shots of the finished watch. Before I do that though, I just wanted to show you the movement holder because I threatened to show you a long time ago in the video actually. So this is a new little toy of mine. It's on AliExpress. I will leave an affiliate link down below if you do want to check one of these out. They're not cheap. This cost me around 54 UK pounds. I think that was including shipping and taxes. But what is pretty cool, it comes with these different collets. So you've got an ETA 7750, for instance, a 2824. Oops. So they've all got numbers on them for different movements. And again, that will be on the listing. Not everything, it doesn't fit every movement, of course. I've tried it with certain Seikos that I do regular, and of course I typically haven't got a collet that's going to fit, and I'll be on that in just a moment. But for instance, if we take this one and we drop it in, so you have a split collet. So basically when you tighten this little screw on the side, it squeezes the collet and then holds the movement in place, and it will spin around just using this little cap screw here, and I can turn that to lock it should I want to, and it's got a little grippy bottom as well. But it is pretty cool. What I am going to do, because I can't use this on all the movements that I want to, certainly for filming, is you may remember when I bought this. So this is a Star, I think it was called Star, a vintage movement holder. It holds quite a lot of movements, and I'm going to sacrifice it because I'm going to take it to work. I'm going to get one of my guys to put it in the lathe and turn that bottom bit off enough for it to fit in here. Now we'll be sticking up a little bit, but I'm hoping to get it, you know, down as far as I can in there, to be honest with you. And then of course I've then got a adjustable movement holder that I can spin around, and certainly for filming purposes that's going to be fantastic. So I just thought I'd show you that because perhaps some of you guys might be interested in one of these. Well then guys, I think this t-shirt absolutely says it all. Movement's not a high beat, but my heart was certainly beating really fast throughout this entire video. Now it has taken nearly 2 months from start to finish. This little watch has caused me more grief than I could possibly imagine, possibly more psychological than actual skill. Just drove me a little bit insane. Don't think this is going to be my best video by a long shot. The camera work, certainly at the start, was when I first bought my new camera, and the lighting was all out askew and things like that. And then the second half I still have problems. So if you've stuck to the end, thank you very much for watching this rather epically long video. Really do appreciate all of your support. I'm really going to enjoy reading your comments down below, so please leave as many as you can. I will read every one of them, and I'll try to reply to as many of you as I can. I've kept it as real as possible. I'm just the same as you guys. If you're having a go at trying to repair watches, we're all learning, and some movements are more of a nemesis than others. You know, I don't think I've got fantastic super duper watchmaker skills, just maybe a bit further up the ladder than some people. There's a lot of people further up the ladder than I am. and I would like to show all the mistakes that I make, because we all do it. We all have parts fly away, we have parts on the floor, we break things, we get frustrated, and that's the joy of this hobby, because right at the end of it, if you're lucky, the watch ticks again. And that's what happens to this one. And for that, I'm going to enjoy it, because I'll remember this for a very long time every time I see this watch. So thanks very much for watching. If you want to support the channel, then I have a page on my website which has got all the tools that I use, or many of the tools I can. There are affiliate links, so you can buy some of those things if you're getting into the hobby. This is a new t-shirt I've made. There will be a link down below for this one as well, should you want to pick that up. And I don't know, maybe you do. Of course, join the Facebook group, mention it in every video, retro and vintage watches and restorations. Once again, there are going to be links down below. There's 10,200 people in there now, so keep coming in and enjoying what goes on in that group. Plenty of watch chat all day long, 24 hours a day. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already and you liked the video that you saw. And for those who have subscribed, please click the bell button, because if you click the bell button, you will be notified as to when I post new videos, because the analytics tells me that not many of you have clicked the bell button. So click it, it's somewhere down there. More videos to come soon. I have got some more reviews to do. I know that can sometimes split opinion with some of you guys, but I will be keeping doing those because they're interesting. And I've got stacks, and I mean stacks of repairs to do. And I've also still got to get around to try and doing that bullhead. And if you're in the group, you know that that thing's also been causing me a lot of frustration as well. So that could be another monumental video, who knows. Anyway, that's it. I could talk forever and I daren't. So bye for now. See you in the next one.